Hi there, Ian Strachan, business coach, and today I wanted to talk to you a little about the lockdown mindset because obviously we're maybe halfway through the whole lockdown thing. How's it going in the head? What's it like? I know for me it's been like Groundhog Day. I've got a nice view out of the window over trees and ponds and lakes and rivers and things, but the sun's been shining every day. It's kind of got a little bit monotonous. And the thing that's really kept me going is because I've made sure I've had planning in place. So that planning has been planning by the day and planning by the week, and then actually a plan for the month and for the 3 months. And the necessity of having that plan is to give structure to the day. So I've actually slackened off my day plan quite a lot. I used to stick a lot of stuff into my day. That's dropped back now to 5 or 6 things on my list of things to do the next day, because I've worked out in these times of working from home we need to take a lot more care of ourselves. So be kind to yourself. Think about being kind to yourself, and that comes down to being quite mindful of ourselves. See, it works a little bit like this as well, you know. There's 80,000 thoughts flying around in our head, 60 to 80,000 thoughts flying around in our head every day. Now that's a hell of a lot of thoughts. All right, imagine a stack of 60,000 bricks. That's a big stack, you know? That's a big stack of bricks. But all that's banging around in your head all the time, all day long. Only understand that kind of half states it though, because the vast majority of those thoughts, and it is perhaps a percentage of 8 to 1 or even 11 to 1 of those thoughts are negative thoughts. No, that's just our nature, that's our genetic nature, because primeval man had to be aware that there's probably going to be a saber-toothed tiger in the long growth, or perhaps a snake on the ground in front of them. So those negative thoughts served us well in those times. We're no longer in those times. So what do we do about those negative thoughts? Because 80,000 thoughts in our head, power of 8 to 1, they are negative thoughts. What do we do to counter that? Well, one of the things that I'd advocate is what's called an I am statement. And an I am statement is actually just telling yourself something positive about yourself. And not just anything. It's not just a random thought. Oh yeah, I'm 6 foot tall. Hey, happy days. Something with a bit more substance, a bit more structure, a bit more resonance to it, you know? So perhaps, I don't know, I'm a powerful, persuasive, successful business owner. How's about that for an affirmation? How's about that for an affirmation of who you are or who you want to be? So while the negative thoughts are bouncing around in your head, what if you spend some time saying to yourself, I am a powerful, persuasive, successful business owner? Say that to yourself 10 times over every morning. Better still, write it down. Write it down 3 times over. It sounds a bit like going to school. But here's the thing, write that down 3 times over. Get yourself a book and write down your affirmation statements every day. And then whatever springs into your mind, write it on the other side. Write it in the margin. Because something will spring into your mind. And one day it'll change your day. And that day will change what happens thereafter. I am statements are massively powerful. Do them on a morning, do them on an evening. Maybe do ones in the morning that relate to your day job, to what you're going to do that day. And maybe the ones you do on an evening are about the longevity, the more long-term things that you want in life. But I am statements are brilliant at countering those negative voices in our head. One of my favourite phrases around that is, the most important things that we hear, it's the things that we say to ourselves about ourselves when we're by ourselves that count the most. I will do that one for you again. It's the things we say about ourselves when we're by ourselves, about ourselves, that really count. So, just be mindful of what you say to yourself. There's that word again, mindful. It keeps springing up. We're going to hit mindfulness at the end of all this. I'm going to talk to you a bit about mindfulness as well. But I'm perhaps not finished on the I am statements because there's an iteration beyond that. So, for me, I used to leap out of bed every morning and hammer straight into an exercise regime and then hammer into the working day. I thought that was the way forward. Big strong guy like you, that's the way to... No, doesn't work. So now I've actually, contrary to a lot of the advice I got, I give myself 10 minutes in bed in the morning before I get up and spend a little bit of time imagining one of the things that I want in life. And it's great to have these goals. You've got to have some goals in life. It might be the really nice car. It might be the experience of driving a really nice car. It might be the really nice house or the really nice gardens or the really nice holiday on a beach somewhere. I think that's a great affirmation. That's a great thing to imagine. I think this morning it was going to a really nice art gallery, and I thought about this. Where would I like to go in the world? Actually, in the Louvre in Paris, there's a really nice art gallery. And I just imagine that. And it's going to be in Paris. It's going to be a grey day. It's always flipping grey in Paris whenever I've been. So, grey day walking across the plaza in Paris. Doors opening, and then that peace and the smell of an art gallery and the peace and the tranquility as you walk in. And, hopefully I have somebody special with me that knows the way around art and can talk me through it and can enjoy the experience and use that other part of my brain, the part that does artistic stuff, that doesn't really get exercised very much for me. And that was really nice to just spend time, walking through that in my imagination. And that walking through what I imagine, walking it through was my visualization. And then I actually said to myself, you're going to go to the Louvre. You are actually going to go to the Louvre and enjoy that. And that's a verbalization. You're going to go, Ian. You're going to go to the Louvre at some point in time. You're going to go to the Louvre. And the final word on that is the materialization. At some point in my life that will come through. And we tend to call those IVVMs. Imagine something, verbalize it. Imagine something, visualize it, verbalize it, and it'll materialize. Again, just working against those negative thoughts that are in our head and start to plant some positive things in there, some aspirations to move towards. And Napoleon Hill said it, we do everything in life twice. We do it once in here, and then we do it once in real life. So really do it in here, that imagination thing, that visualization thing. Really get in the moment. See what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel. Get in the state of that moment and enjoy it. Because when you've done it up here once, then in real life, it's easier to achieve, it's easier to get there. And then how does that relate to the day in front of you? Well, for my days anyway, having a plan in place has been brilliant. Like I say, only 5 to 6 things on my to-do list these days, so I've got a relatively easy day compared to what I might have otherwise done. But 5 to 6 things that I will get done in that day. And some of those tasks sometimes are a bit repetitive and are a bit boring, and I don't do repetitive and boring. I really don't. And those things that I don't do very well, like repetitive and boring, I chunk those down into 15-minute slots. And I promise myself, after 15 minutes, I'm going to stop doing this. I literally get a timer on the iPad, stick it up there, and watch the time tick down. I'll give myself 15 minutes of complete immersion in that task. And at the end of the 15 minutes, I'll stop. Because that's what I've told myself I'll do. I'll stop. Now, sometimes I want to run on a little bit longer, and I'm content to do that. I've given myself the option of stopping. But sometimes I'll just go, that really was enough. I really have. I've done now. Be out. Drop the mic and walk off, But it's a great way of chunking down the tasks that I really don't fancy doing. Try it yourself. It's really, really powerful. It means that some of the tasks that I've planned in the day need breaking up into 2, 3, 4, even 6 chunks of the day. But then I can reward myself with doing something that I really like going and grabbing a biscuit out of the cupboard. Only the biscuit cupboard now, I've had to actually put a piece of paper across that with a tick chart on it, because when I go to the cupboard for a biscuit, I'm now doing some stretches that I wasn't doing before. Because I was going for the biscuits too often, and I can actually wolf a packet of biscuits all to myself if I'm not careful. So there's some stretches along the way there, because I'm stacking a habit. I have a habit of going for a chocolate biscuit, and now I have a habit of going for a stretch. Brilliant. It's worked really well for me so far. And that habit stacking and getting those new habits in there. I mean, what an opportunity we have in this lockdown for actually growing some new habits, or growing a new identity out of it even. So like 13 years ago, I didn't think I could run. I mean, I could run, but I don't mean like jogging, the 5k, 8k, 10ks, whatever. And over a period of time, I got my run further and further and further, so I can run 10k now. 13 years later, I'm a runner. I changed my identity. So what identity are you going to change during this time? It's interesting, I started doing the stretches, which was a 7-minute stretch routine on the app. Perhaps that's the first step. If you can't go out running, download the app. And I started doing the stretches, and 7 minutes soon became a little bit too short. I wanted it to be a bit longer, so I downloaded some videos on doing yoga, which works really, really well. It stretches me a little bit further. Yoga's flipping hard work. And I now can do yoga. When I started lockdown, I couldn't do yoga, but my identity has now shifted and I can do yoga. It's absolutely powerful, just by building a habit. So that's plan for the day, and then a plan for the week. Because then the week's passed and we've been successful and productive. And that week is going to be week after week, it becomes a month, and then we've got to the end of this period and we've achieved something useful. How brilliant is that? So the process we've gone through is we've actually made an I am statement about us, who we are, and then we've made an IVVM, a visualization of some of the things we want to achieve when we've walked through that. And then we've made a plan for the day of how we're going to do some of the stuff that's going to help us towards the IVVM. And to do those IVVMs, the I am statements, giving us some strength to do that, some resilience against the 80,000 thoughts that are floating around in our heads going to stand in our way. Because to be fair, we are the only thing stood in our way most of the time. What else can we do? There's that whole being kind to yourself, and by putting a plan in place for the day, that allows you to give yourself permission to be kind to yourself. Because if you can see you've done those 5 tasks that were fine when you planned it out yesterday, it seemed like a good way of spending the day, then you've fulfilled. You can give yourself permission to take the time off in the evening and watch TV, or chill out and read a book, or just have a conversation with somebody. Jump on a Zoom call with a relative you've not seen for a long time, or a friend that you've not seen for a long time. What a brilliant opportunity to do that. Now it's been normalised. There's another new habit for you. How powerful is that? As we move on then through this process, what else can we do to be kind to ourselves? Meditation's a great way forward. Again, it's another skill set. Maybe it's another habit you're going to learn. And a habit you can pull up in the middle of a day, or you can pull up at the set of traffic lights and just spend a couple of minutes zoned out and give your brain a rest. Because 80,000 thoughts bouncing round inside your head. No wonder some days we feel a little bit zinged when we finish the day. So why not give your head a rest? 10 minutes meditation. Unless you're really, really busy, then 10 minutes should be 20 minutes. It's one of my favourite phrases is that. Everybody should do 10 minutes meditation every day, unless you're really, really busy, in which case you should do 30 minutes meditation every day. I love the contrariness of that because it is so true. Let's go back to the Stockdale paradox. I mentioned that a little bit right at the beginning. The Stockdale paradox comes from a wartime story, where in the prisoner of war camps it was noted by Captain Stockdale that the prisoners who struggled the most with the incarceration were the optimists. And I remember reading this and thinking, well, that doesn't sound right. But the optimists were the guys who were saying, oh, we'll be out at Christmas, or we'll be out at Easter, or we'll be out in the summer. And those guys actually didn't have a coping mechanism for when they got to Christmas and they weren't released, and when they got to Easter and they weren't released, and when they got to the autumn and they still weren't released, then all hope had evaporated. Whereas Captain Stockdale developed a routine for getting through every day, day by day. A routine and a plan for every day. And a routine and a plan for day by day by day to plan the weeks, and then from planning the weeks to planning the months, so that we could pass the time by. We're not in a dissimilar situation, which is why I'm talking about planning the days out. Give yourself some structure to the day. Give yourself permission to chill out for some of the day. And be aware of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be mindful of your state. Now, mindful's cropped up 3 or 4 times in this video so far. And I'll be brutally honest, until probably this morning I wasn't entirely sure what mindfulness was. But a really good friend of mine, a guy called Nick Reeves, has just put a podcast together, 20 minutes of what is mindfulness. Brilliant explanation. I loved it when I listened to that this morning. Absolutely superb podcast. So that's Nick Reeves of Alchemist, and I just love the presentation because it's really, really simple. And to be fair, he's actually slipped a bit of meditation in there as well. Really, really nicely presented, really approachable, really easy to drop into. And just by the time you've spent 20 minutes listening to Nick's voice, you've chilled out. Those 80,000 thoughts, they've calmed down. Trust me, they've calmed down. So I really recommend that. I'm going to put a link in the text box afterwards. So yeah, be kind to ourselves. So I covered a few bases today. I don't know if any of it resonates with you. I'd love to know whether one thing or 3 things or whatever resonated with you. Stick it in the comments box below. If you want talking through it, or you want pointing to the apps that I've used, or you want pointing towards any of the podcasts or anything like that kind of thing, just drop me a line. Get in touch. I'm Ian Strachan. Strangely, I'm a business coach. It didn't sound at all businesses today, but it is about looking after ourselves. So I hope that's helped you, and well, take care, and I'll catch up with you later. Ian Strachan, signing off.